It is so good to see you. My name's Robby. I'm one of the pastors here. And if it's your first time with us, you picked a great week to be here. We are in week 3 of our series, The Way. And what we're doing in this series is we're learning the ways that God gives us to deepen our faith, strengthen our souls, and help us live our lives how God leads us to live them. Because we know it can be entirely possible to be a fan of God and yet not be a true follower of Christ. You can be a fan of him, that all stuff sounds great, and not actually follow Jesus. And the goal is not for us to come here for an hour on Sunday, sing a few songs, and then be like, yeah, that was a nice word, let's go home now. That's not the goal. The goal is that we would show up, yes, we would bring our praise to God, but we would leave challenged. We would leave hopefully taking the first step towards something that is changing us from the inside out. That is the goal. And we know this to be true. And through this entire series, this is probably going to be like an 8-week series. And we're keeping this main thought, this main takeaway through the entire series. If you're taking notes, it's this: following Christ is more than a moment of decision where we receive him as Savior. It is a new momentum for life where we commit to his ways as Lord. When we're following Jesus, there should be a progression in his direction. And in week 1, Pastor Mark preached, and we learned about the way of God's word in our life. And then last week in part 2, we learned about the way of the Holy Spirit and his power and work in our lives. And today, we're going to be talking about something that, for me personally, has completely changed my life the last couple years. And it's something that I think as a culture we need, and as a church, like capital C church, a lot of us have missed. And that is the way of the Sabbath. We're going to be talking about the way of the Sabbath. I want to ask us a few questions. Don't answer these out loud, but answer them in your head. Think about these. What is it that is stressing you out right now? What's your anxiety level like right now? Are you sleeping well at night? Is your body tired? Is your mind tired? Is your soul tired? Is your relationship with your spouse short-fused? When's the last time the two of you had a date night, just the two of you? What's your relationship with your kids like? Is that tense? Are you not able to spend a lot of time together? When's the last time you had a day with just you and your kids? What are your friendships like? Are your close friends close? In Matthew 11, Jesus says this: are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out? He says, come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me, work with me, watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. That's beautiful. Jesus says, come to me, and I'll show you how to take a real rest. For some of us, the first part of that scripture, are you tired, worn out, burned out? Yes, yes, and yes. For a lot of us, it's not just a season of life that maybe we're in. It's life. That's all of life. The anxiety's always there. The stress is always there. Are you tired, worn out, burned out? You can ask me that any day, and I'm probably going to answer it yes. That's a lot of us. So what do we do if it's not just a season, but we've fallen into a way of life? In the beginning, God created. If you read the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, it says, in the beginning, God created. For 6 days, God created. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He created stuff on each day. And I believe he also created something on the 7th day that we're going to talk about. But days 1 through 6, if you read Genesis 1, day 1, he created day and night and said it was good. Day 2, space and sky, good. Day 3, land and seas and plants and trees, and he said they were good. Day 4, the sun and the moon and the stars, and he said they were good. Day 5, the fish and the birds, he said they were good. Day 6, the animals and the humans, and he said they were very good. We get the very good. But 6 days, good, very good. And then Genesis 2 begins with this. In verse 1, Genesis 2, it says, "So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. On the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy because it was the day when he rested from his work of creation." So see, I think God created something on the seventh day. He created rest. And not only did he implement and create rest on the seventh day, notice what he called it. He called rest holy. So it's day 1 through 6, good, 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 very good. But then day 7, he calls that holy. He doesn't say it's good or very good. He says it's holy. We didn't even get that. We got very good. But he calls this day of rest holy. There was a work and rest rhythm that God, the creator, puts into creation. He builds that rhythm in. 6 days of work, 1 day of rest. 6 days of work, 1 day of rest. That is the rhythm of work and rest. And that day of rest, the seventh day, is holy. The word rested here in Genesis 2 that we just read is the Hebrew word Shabbat, which is where we get the word Sabbath from. Shabbat. So we have the seventh day, the day of rest. It's holy, Sabbath. And in Mark 2, if you read the New Testament, Jesus says that the Sabbath was created for man, not man for the Sabbath, which means God created it for us, which implies we need it. If God is the one who created it, we need it. The day of rest, the Sabbath, it's made for us. In the book of Exodus, even if this is your first time ever coming to church, there's a really good chance you've heard the phrase, the 10 Commandments. And if you read the book of Exodus in the Bible, the 10 Commandments are laid out. It's God's people were in slavery. They're delivered from slavery. And when they're in the wilderness going to the new place God has for them, God gives them the 10 Commandments. And it's all the must-nots, right? You must not steal. You must not kill. You must not commit adultery. You must not have any other idols above God. But right in the middle of the 10 Commandments, one of the 10 Commandments, I think it's the fourth one listed, it says to remember to observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Remember to observe. It is one of the 10 Commandments that God gives. He says, remember to observe. It's almost like it's something we could forget to do. It's almost like it's something we've already forgotten in our life and in our culture. The Sabbath, the seventh day of rest. Why is it that Sabbath is the only commandment we actually brag about breaking? Have you ever thought about that? No one's sitting around like telling you how many things they've stolen or like people they've cheated or idols in their life. Or like murder, hopefully, I mean, you wouldn't murder anyway, but no one's like bragging about that kind of stuff. But yet, we brag about breaking the Sabbath. We're constantly talking about how busy we are, how crazy life is, how we stayed late at the office, we got in early at the office, all the hours that we're putting in. We're bragging about how we are not resting. If that doesn't punch you in the face, think about it this way. When somebody asks you, hey, how are you doing? How's it going? What do you respond? Oh, it's going good, just staying busy. Maybe I'm the only one who says that. I actually try not to say that when people ask me, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. And then I start thinking, oh, I don't want to say I'm busy. Life's has some ups, some downs, some stuff's happening, and then it just gets awkward and you just high five and walk away. But that's like our natural thing. How's it going? Oh, it's going good. Just staying busy. Staying busy. Busyness in our minds, it means that I matter. So then if we're not busy, we must not have any value. Here in America, we work more hours than any other country on average. 40-hour work weeks are a thing of the past. We have work with us 24/7 on our smartphones. Even some of us are smart watches. You ever see the people with the smart watch? It goes off and they're always slapping themselves. It's the funniest thing in the world to me. Probably because I don't have one or I would be doing it too. But they're always like, boom. Like mid-conversation with you. They're talking to you and just, oh, yeah. What's happening? But we have work with us whenever we want. It's always there. 75% of people sleep next to their phone, and 90% of people check it immediately upon waking up. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I'm one of those, in case you're wondering. You probably are too. 9 out of 10 of us, the first thing we do when we wake up is pick up our phone. Whoa. We speed up our life of hurry and overload in order to cram everything all in, but it ends up doing something to our soul. We've lost the rhythm of work and rest like God intended. It's all just work for us. We live in a culture now of restlessness. Listen to this. This blew my mind. In the 1960s, when technology was on the rise, the forward thinkers of the time thought that by the 90s, we would only be working 20 hours a week, and our biggest problem would be too much rest. What? Obviously, that didn't happen. Like, yes, technology got better and better and better, and it helped us more and more and more, but the time it saved us, we traded in to be able to make more money. We traded it in. We traded time for money. That literally is what happened. We work more, we have more, and yet we're more restless than ever before. We're more exhausted than ever before. Not just a physical exhaustion. I'm talking like that internal, the weariness, the stress, the anxiety. We have forgotten the Sabbath. We have forgotten the rhythm of work and rest. The rhythm built into creation by the Creator himself, don't forget, that is designed to heal and keep our souls healthy. God created it and he commanded it. It was created and commanded. So then the question becomes, what exactly does that mean? It's like, okay, yeah, I get you. We're supposed to have a 7th day of rest, the Sabbath. What does that mean exactly? Well, we're going to break this down, and we're going to answer that question kind of in 2 ways. We're going to first look at what is the Sabbath, and then we're going to look at how to Sabbath. So the first part, the what is the Sabbath, we're going to look at what I call the 4 pillars of Sabbath. And so what this is, these are 4 different words that are actually, you can translate out of the word Shabbat from Hebrew. These 4 different words are translated out of that. And while I call them 4 pillars of Sabbath, because when you look at these 4 words, it really helps to build a structure of what the Sabbath is. So we're going to quickly look at all 4 of those. And then we're going to look at 3 what I call need-to-knows on how do you actually put this into practice. So 4 pillars of Sabbath that you can build on every 7 days. Pillar number 1 is the word stop. Stop. The most common translation of the word Shabbat is to stop, to literally stop from working. And this is a kind of stop that it doesn't mean you're so tired that you have to stop. This is a choice you make. This is a stop that is a choice that is made where I am going to cease from working on this 7th day. I will actually stop. The 6 days we work are almost always about control, right? The things we control or the things we think we control. And so we're working, we're controlling, but the 7th day is about realizing there are things we cannot control. And that's okay. That we come to peace with that, which we have no power over. Stopping makes us realize that the things we work in and on and the things we do don't actually need us. The world still moves. 6 days, it's like we're grasping for energy. We're just going, we're giving, we're taking, we're giving, we're taking for 6 days. But then it's that 7th day, we're supposed to, it's like we finally breathe. We stop. We cease from working. We cease from even thinking about work. Because if you're anything like me, just the thought of work, I might as well just be working. Like just thinking about it, you're processing, you're going through all the things you have to do. We cease from work. That's pillar number 1, stop. Pillar number 2 is the word rest. Rest. Jewish culture has obviously been practicing this art of Sabbath for literally thousands of years. And there's a Hebrew word that they use when talking about Sabbath. It's the word menuha. Menuha. It's translated rest, but it's a very specific kind of rest. It's not the taking a nap on the couch kind of rest, although that is great and I love that. This kind of rest, it's like a celebration. It's like you're taking a step back in order to celebrate. That's the kind of rest that this is. Menuha is something you create. It's about cultivating an environment and an atmosphere to enjoy your life, to enjoy your world, to enjoy God. It's the rest that's good for your soul. It's the rest that Jesus talked about in Matthew 11 when he said, are you tired, weary, burnt out? Come to me and I'll show you how to take a real rest. That's this manuha. Think about it this way. In music, in songs, the rest in between notes are just as important as the note being played or sung. Right? If you're just up here singing and singing and singing and singing and singing and you're going and you're going and you're going, you never go, one, you're going to zone out and not know what's going on. And two, the person singing is going to pass out. They're just going to hit the ground because there's no breath. That rest is just as important as the notes being played. Or if you look at like a painting or a picture that you take, the negative space in the picture is just as important as the picture itself, or you lose the image. That rest is so important. The rest was the crescendo of creation. God, he didn't rest so he could then create. He didn't rest on the first day. He rested on the seventh day. He created to get to the rest. Menuha says that all the work is done for today, even if it's not. We're going to rest in that. Not worry, but rest. 4 pillars. Stop, rest. Pillar number 3 is the word delight. Delight. This is my favorite one. We say no to work so that we can say yes to delight. Sabbath is not like every other day. Remember, it's a holy day. It's a literal weekly holiday. Think about Christmas. Think about when you were a kid leading up to Christmas, or if you have kids leading up to Christmas. How exciting is that? Coming up to Christmas Day, your kids are like bugging you like crazy. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. My 6-year-old's already like making her Christmas list, and probably doesn't help that you go to the store and there's Christmas stuff already up everywhere, but she's just so excited about Christmas already. Is next week Christmas? No, you still got a while. They get so excited. That's the anticipation that a Sabbath every 7 days should actually bring to us. That's how good that day should be, where every 7 days we are looking forward to that day. We cannot wait to get there. Every 7 days is a holiday? Does every 7 days feel like a holiday to you? Not me. Not most of the time. Right? Like, you're telling me every 7 days should feel like the best day ever? Does our life actually reflect that? I love thinking about it that way, though, that it is a weekly holiday. So you simply ask yourself the question on that day, what feeds my soul? And then you do that. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. Delight in the Sabbath. Delight in the day. What brings your soul delight? Do it. Stop, rest, delight. Pillar number 4 is the word worship. Worship. The natural progression of stopping, resting, and delighting will lead us into worship. We put our attention on all that God has given us, and we're grateful for the moment we find ourselves in. Putting our attention on God, that is worship. Worship is not just a song. Now, you can worship God through song, but me saying like this 7th day is about worship, that doesn't mean you have to take 24 hours and just sing songs all day. I mean, honestly, I lead worship, and that would be miserable to just sit around and do nothing but sing all day. That does not sound like a day of delight. It's not that at all. Now, you can worship God through song, but this kind of worship is an orientation of your entire life, where it's like you are taking your whole life and you're giving God this awareness, this thankfulness of how good God is, how great God is, the awesomeness of God. We realize we don't need more on this day, that we have enough. We bring our attention to how good and how big he is, and we let Jesus come in and heal our soul. And then we worship him at that soul level. We stop from work, we rest, we delight. This makes room for prayer, for quiet, for solitude, for scripture, for celebration. Let God speak to you. Be aware of his presence and who he is. 4 pillars of Sabbath. You stop from work, literally cease from working. Rest, the Menuha celebration. You delight, whatever brings your soul joy. And ultimately, when those are done, your life becomes worship to God. And if those words are describing what Sabbath is, then naturally next is, okay, how do we Sabbath then? If that's the 4 pillars of what, now what's the how? How do we actually put this into place in our lives? How do we take one day a week, and actually practice these 4 pillars of stop, rest, delight, and worship? I want to answer that by giving us, I just call them 3 need to knows, because they're things we need to know. about Sabbath, about how to Sabbath. The first one, if you're taking notes, is this. Sabbath is not the same thing as a day off. Sabbath is not the same thing as a day off. The day off in our life is when we do everything we need to do that we don't get paid to do. That's the day off, right? It's when you're mowing. It's when you're like doing laundry, when you're cleaning the house, when you're fixing something that broke at the house, when you're doing, I don't know, catching up on your homework, whatever it is, like that's the day off. Just because you're not getting paid for it doesn't mean it's not still work. And so our day off is we're still working. We're getting stuff done that we don't get paid for. But the Sabbath, that's different. So maybe for you, it looks like, let's just say you work Monday through Friday at a job, right? And then Saturday for you carve out to be your day off, where you get everything else done you need to get done. And then Sunday maybe for you is the day of Sabbath, where you stop working. You come to church with your family, your friends, you celebrate, learn about God, and then just kind of feast the rest of the day, which we'll talk about in a minute, kind of different things like that. Maybe that's how it looks for you. But Sabbath, it's not a day off. So then you might be asking, because some of you may be thinking like, yeah, I kind of understand Sabbath, but now I don't, because when I'm not working, I'm always still kind of doing stuff. So the question becomes, what exactly do I do on a Sabbath if it's not the same thing as a day off? I'm so glad you asked that question. It's a great question. Let's talk about it. I want to give you a very simple thing, a filter to put everything you would do on a Sabbath day, put it through this filter. When it comes to what you're about to do, ask yourself this: is the thing I am about to do life-giving for me? Is this thing I am about to do life-giving for me? Some things are clearly work, like going to the office, doing laundry. Some things are clearly rest, like napping in a hammock or reading a good book. But there are a lot of things in the middle, in the gray, and it changes between each of us. For some, running is work. For me, running is work. If I'm thinking about like what's going to bring my soul delight today, I'm going to go for a run. I would never say such a thing. So then that means I am not going to go for a run on the Sabbath. But I know some people where running is actually like therapy. It is good for them. So by all means, if you want to do that to yourself and it's fun, go take a run on the Sabbath. More power to you. For some people, yard work is like that. They get actually filled up from doing work in the yard. Again, I'm not that person. But if you are, that's great. We have to figure out what for us is work and what for us is rest. That's different for every single one of us. But when Sabbath is done right, when rest is done right, it's an act of worship to God, just like if our work during the week is done right, it's an act of worship to God. In our rest, we can be worshiping Him in how we rest. Remember, menuha, we're celebrating. We enjoy the world as God intended, with a cup of coffee, a nap, a good meal, time with family, time with friends. It glorifies God, and it brings our attention to the beauty all around us that God's created. I want to go even more practical here real quick before we move to the next one and give us some quick Sabbath do's and Sabbath don'ts, just to kind of help you understand this a little bit better, because I know for a lot of us, this is a brand new concept. So some Sabbath do's, things to do on the Sabbath if you don't know where to start. Sleep in, relax, read, pray, eat whatever you want all day. There's no such thing as a diet on the Sabbath. Now, that's not in the Bible, but I believe that to be true. If you're trying to eat healthy, that's not fun. So we're talking about delighting in a day. Eat whatever you want that day. Our kids, if they come up to us on Sabbath and they're like, hey, can we have a cookie for breakfast? I'm going to look them in the eye and say, you know what? Today's Sabbath. Yes, you can have a cookie. Have 2 cookies. Bring me a cookie. You know what? Let's eat the whole pack of cookies for breakfast because it's the Sabbath day. And then we get tummy aches and we got to have a conversation later about, gluttony and things like that. But that's that's different. The Sabbath, though, eat whatever you want. Enjoy nature. Go outside. Spend time with your family and friends. Just some ideas of things to do that might bring you joy. Some Sabbath don'ts. Do not buy or sell on this day except for food, because all that's going to do is make you get back into consumption and work mode. Don't touch your email. Don't post on social media. Maybe even put your phone in the other room. We'll talk more about that in a second. Don't run errands. Don't catch up around the house. Don't talk about things that are divisive or sad or will make you angry. Do not talk politics on the Sabbath. You have 6 other days to talk politics. Why would you burn that on the Sabbath day? Don't talk politics on the Sabbath. Don't talk about the things you need to get done for work. Remember, even the thought of work you need to rest from. Don't go to a store, shop online, visit anything that's just going to make you want more, because on the Sabbath you realize we have enough. You realize all I have is actually all I need. So the first thing we need to know about the Sabbath in order to know how to Sabbath is that it is not the same thing as a day off. Number 2, the second need to know, disconnect so that you can connect. Disconnect so that you can connect. Disconnect from anything that distracts you from being present with those in front of you, with whatever's in front of you. Disconnect from those things. Turn your computer off. Don't check your emails. Maybe actually just take a break from social media for the day. Because there's no possible way social media is rest for you. I mean, social media is great. We're able to connect with people. It's a beautiful thing, but what happens? You pick up your phone, you start scrolling, next thing you know, it's been 3 hours, you haven't seen your kids all day, and you're like, who am I? I'm a horrible person. That's social media. That's the fallout. So why even just get rid of it for the day? Or maybe actually turn your phone on Do Not Disturb and put it in the other room. I know, that's extreme. Maybe just do it for the morning, just for a few hours, and just see what happens. See how, honestly, anxious you get, and that's not good. Just try it, though. Disconnect so you can connect. Feast, celebrate. Disconnect from the things that distract you, and you simply connect with those that are right in front of you. We truly need to relearn how to power down and unplug. To only be in one place at one time. Maybe read an actual paper book. Maybe get an actual bounded Bible and just read it and see what happens. Our phones are great. This isn't like a standing on a soapbox condemning phones. I love my phone. It's a weird thing to say. But you know this to be true, right? They are so distracting. And they distract us from the things that are actually most important in our lives. The people that are in our lives. Our time spending with God. Disconnect from them just for the day. Or maybe just start half a day. Just start with the morning. Sabbath is not the same thing as a day off. Disconnect so you can connect. The third need to know is good weekly rhythms begin with good daily rhythms. Good weekly rhythms begin with good daily rhythms. If you don't have good daily rhythms, do not expect to have a good Sabbath rhythm every 7 days. What I mean by that is if days 1 through 6 are just crazy and chaotic, don't expect day 7 to be this beautiful paradise. It's not going to happen. My family and I, we've been practicing Sabbath for almost 2 years now, actually kind of hardcore taking this seriously. The first few months were miserable. I hated it. I hated every second of it. I was so anxious. I'm just pacing the house. I'm grumpy. I'm getting short fuse with everybody, to the point where my wife one Sabbath day looked at me. She's like, Robby, you got to just go for a walk. Leave the house. You're bumming us out. This isn't fun. I'm like, fine. Go on a walk. It was so frustrating. And I kept wondering, why the heck is this happening? I'm taking Sabbath seriously. Why am I so anxious? And at the time, I started reading this book by a guy named Rassel. It's a book called How to Be Here. And I didn't realize he was going to be talking about Sabbath in it. I was just reading this book. And to my surprise, he has this entire section talking about Sabbath, and he started outlining how miserable he was when he started doing it. I'm reading this. I'm like, dude, this is my life right now. Yes, I agree. Yeah, oh my gosh. Is this how it's always going to be? This can't be. I couldn't believe it. But then he came to this realization. And it blew my mind. His other 6 days were so crazy that his body was actually going into shock every 7 days because he would just stop. So it was like his body was going into a detox on that 7th day instead of a day of rest. It was detoxing from the chaos of the other 6. You can't just do a cold turkey rest for 24 hours if your life has zero rhythm to it. Don't be out of control on your phone, spending ungodly amounts of time on your phone, and then give it up for a day and expect it not to drive you crazy. Don't have horrible sleep patterns for 6 days and then on the 7th day think you're just going to feel so rested. Oh, I feel great. It's not going to happen. Don't for 6 days never see your spouse and kids and then expect on day 7 them to run up to you and say, oh my gosh, I love you so much. I've missed you. Let's hang out all day. Not going to happen. And we're like, who's this guy? Who's this girl? I haven't seen them in weeks. If our daily rhythms are bad, our weekly rhythms will be bad. Learn how to and be intentional about your time management and your technology management the other 6 days of the week. Put things into place. Sabbath is not the same thing as a day off. Disconnect so you can connect. Good weekly rhythms begin with good daily rhythms. So what now? What now? That's the what, that's the how. I want to encourage you to actually put this into practice. Be challenged with this and give it a try. Maybe not a full 24 hours. I know that can be extreme, but maybe just give it a try for like 12 hours. Carve out a 12-hour day and ask yourself this question. This might be the most important question you could ask today, one of them. What has to change in my life for me to start doing this? What has to change in my life for me to start doing this? And that might be a question you have to wrestle with. My family and I, just so I can give you an example, so maybe this makes a little better sense, but I'll tell you kind of real quick, generally what we do for a Sabbath day. So for us, Friday night at 6 p.m., we begin Sabbath, and it ends Saturday night at 6 p.m. We go Friday night to Saturday night, 6 p.m. to 6 p.m., so essentially all day Saturday. Now, why we do Saturday is because I work for the church, so I work on Sunday. I know what to tell you. I'm going to be here every Sunday, no matter what, doing something. So my work week is Sunday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday is our weekend. So what we do is Friday is our day off. We're getting everything done we need to get done, running around crazy, finishing up work, finishing up errands, and then coming up to 6 o'clock, I'll look at my phone one more time, go through emails one more time, go through our Slack channel for our staff one more time, all these different things I'm just going through, and then I shut it all down. 6 o'clock hits, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I put it in the other room. And then, as a family, my wife and our 2 kids, we sit together, we light a candle, and we have a meal together because just something about having something to start it's like it shifts something in your mind. So we have an event to start the Sabbath every week, and for us, it's a meal. Sometimes we'll have friends over for that meal. If we do, we got a basket. Everybody puts their phone in it, and we put it in the other room just so we can actually, be together. And then we have a meal, and then we celebrate, and then it's like nothing but delight from there. It's the holiday. We're eating candy. We're watching movies. And then we sleep in on Saturday. We wake up whenever we want, no alarms. And then we come together as a family that morning when we wake up, and we read some scripture together with a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, which is a lot of fun. It's like, okay, we'll read a story. What'd you learn? My 3-year-old, every single time, he goes, Jesus. And I'm like, okay, what about Jesus? And he goes, he loves me. And I'm like, I'm not going to not say, awesome to that. So it's like, yep, good job, buddy. Oh, one day he'll actually say something different, but I'll take it every single time. And then after that, it's whatever we want all day. We are delighting. We are enjoying each other's company. If we want to go for a walk, we'll go for a walk. If we want to go drive around, we'll go drive around. Again, this is different for every stage of life. My wife and I have 2 young kids, so ours looks different than probably some of you that have no kids. But it's that filter of what is going to bring my soul delight, and then we do it. Maybe it's go to a Gator game. Because if you see me at a Gator game, I'm screaming my head off, but I'm actually enjoying it. You may not think that. Whether we win or lose, I had a blast. More so if we win, but whatever it may be, yes, let's go do that. And then at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, we come together again. We have a meal. We eat to end it. So we just bookend ours with dinner. Just to okay, we started it. Okay, we ended it. We eat together. And then I go after we eat. I pick up my phone, check my emails, make sure there's no crazy text messages from anybody the sky is falling or anything like that. Solve any problems. And then we're about the rest of our work week. Some are great. A lot are a mess. Again, this is not perfect. Sometimes, like I said, we have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. They don't understand you're not supposed to fight on the Sabbath. Those 2 kids are going to always get in an argument at some point in time. And so sometimes the Sabbath day is great. and it's amazing. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess, but every single time it is needed for our souls. It is never not needed. I know this was a lot today, but honestly, there's a lot more on this topic that I want to encourage you to dive deeper into. And I wanted to give us a couple resources. One in particular is a website called practicingtheway.org. It's all free. It has stuff on there you can actually implement in your own life and in your own family about practicing the Sabbath. And so check that out, practicingtheway.org. It's great. It's got a lot of great stuff on there, and it's all free. We also have a book that is really good on the topic. If you're a reader, if you're not a reader, I would encourage you to be a reader. It's a book called Garden City by John Mark Comer. And we bought, I think, 20 of them today, and they're in our resource area. It's not all on Sabbath. It's a book about work and rest and rhythms, but there's a huge section that's all on it. And so if you buy that book today in the resource, we made these custom canvas bookmarks because why not? Any chance we got to make more canvas swag, we do it. So if you buy one, we'll give you the bookmark for free. But practicingtheway.org, it's a free site. It's got a lot of great stuff on it. I know, though, some of you might be sitting here thinking this is the craziest thing you've ever heard. This is way too extreme. This is way too out there. This is way too against the grain of my life. This is way too against the grain of culture, in which I would say, yes, that is true. That is correct. It's also commanded to us by God. Created by God. Commanded by God. We need rest. We need that specific kind of soul rest that only God can give. Sometimes by the end of the week, we're tired, sore, worn down. But the Sabbath comes like a doctor, ready to patch us up every 7 days. It's simply creating an environment where it's easy for Jesus to come in and do his healing work in our souls every single week. So let it be healing for your soul. Most of Jesus' healings took place on the Sabbath day if you read the New Testament. It's kind of crazy. He was always healing people on the Sabbath. I don't think that's coincidence. The words we have that we translate into healing and salvation in Scripture are actually from the same Greek word. It's one word in the Greek that we have translated into healing and salvation. Because healing is salvation and salvation is healing. And you can take everything we talked about here today, and you can do it all apart from Jesus. You can separate it, and you can do all these things practically, and they'll still benefit you, yes. But they're not going to change you. They're not going to actually do any lasting change. They're not going to do anything to your soul. If you sleep in, obviously, it's going to be helpful for your body. If you stop working for a day, yes, it will be helpful for your mind. If you have days carved out where you go have fun with your family, yes, it will be helpful for your heart. But doing these apart from God will do nothing for your soul. And it is at a soul level where it's all actually connected. There will be no true and lasting healing apart from Jesus. So maybe for you, maybe the first step here is to simply invite Jesus into your life, to give your life to him, and take that first step of following him. Matthew 11. Remember, we read it to start. Jesus says, "Come to me, those who are weary, and I will give you rest."